A Highlander's Pledge. Highlands Forever. By Aileen Adams.
Chapter 1. After more than a month of rough travel through the Scottish Highlands, there was no sight sweeter to Keith MacFarlane's eyes than the smoke rising from the chimney of Boyd Macpherson's keep. The Laird of Clan Macpherson had always made it known that his door was open to any friend. His hospitality was a matter of legend, as had been his father's before him. Never had Keith been in such dire need of that hospitality. It had been a month since he'd rested his head upon anything softer than his saddle. It would not have come as a surprise to find the indent of every stone and rock upon which he'd slept, left behind on his flesh. He'd lived in the out-of-doors before, had spent a great deal of his life riding and camping when he'd served as a soldier. He was still employed in such manner of work, hence the reason for his having searched half the Highlands since word had come down from the Crown. Word of a missing child. Just why the child was missing and what purpose the child served was a mystery, and he was not the man to solve such a mystery either. He'd been granted no understanding of who the child happened to be. Merely that someone of importance to the Crown was in search of this child. A lad of roughly 3 years who'd disappeared in the Highlands. It was not precisely a simple matter to be managed. What added to the difficulty of the assignment was the lack of funds provided to Keith and the men he'd chosen to accompany him on this treacherous journey. They'd barely been given enough to cover the purchase of fresh mounts, saddles, and a handful of supplies. Nothing to secure lodging. Nothing for food. They'd hunted, set up camp night after night. The scant bit of gold left them was enough for a cup of mead at the taverns they passed. The mead served greater purposes than mere refreshment. It was within taverns and inns that rumours flew, where a great deal could be learned if a man had sense enough to listen. Even this had proven useless, and after months of rough riding with nothing to show for his efforts, Keith's spirits were lower than they'd been in some time. To say nothing of the men who rode alongside him. Malcolm Drummond rode silently, always stoic. His placid expression often hid a storm of thoughts, impressions, concerns. Woe to the man who took him for a fool, simply because he preferred to hold his tongue until he had something of value to share. Angus MacDonald was quite the opposite. For the first month and even well into the second, he'd been as ever Keith remembered him. Jovial, finding something to laugh about even when their situation looked its most grim. Even he'd been unable to find anything worth laughing about, as their journey stretched on for what felt like years. The weather had been wet of.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?